Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. We have more gaming and PlayStation news, rumours and leaks to go over. If you enjoyed today's video, please show your support by hitting that like button, and don't forget to tune into the PlayStation podcast every Sunday at 7 PM. It's been such a long time since Red Dead Online got any major attention. In fact, many players had pretty much written it off, assuming Rockstar had quietly moved on for good. But here we are in July 2025, and out of nowhere, Red Dead Online just got a brand new update. It's the first real content drop the game has seen in years, and fans are now wondering, is this just a one-off surprise, or is Rockstar gearing up for something much bigger? When Red Dead Redemption 2 launched in 2018, its online mode, Red Dead Online, followed shortly after. Rockstar supported it regularly for several years with updates, events, new missions, and all the live service features you'd expect from a big online game. But then in July 2022, things changed. Rockstar officially announced that it would be scaling back development for Red Dead Online. They said they were shifting focus towards Grand Theft Auto 6, which was deep in development at the time. That statement basically confirmed what many suspected, that Red Dead Online was no longer a priority. For the next 3 years, the game went quiet. Aside from small fixes and seasonal rotations, there was no significant updates for Red Dead Online. Many in the community believed the game had effectively been abandoned. Then suddenly, without any major build-up or hype, a brand new update has just dropped, titled Strange Tales of the West. This update brought something players hadn't seen in a long time, and that is fresh content. The update includes 4 new Telegram missions, a type of solo content in Red Dead Online where players take on specific jobs delivered through, well, telegrams. These new missions have a supernatural twist though, commissioned by a mysterious author named Theodore Levin, who's fascinated by unexplained phenomena in the Wild West. One of the standout missions, and the one getting the most attention, is called Strange Tales of the Plague. In this mission, players are sent to a version of Armadillo that's been completely overrun by the undead. That's right, zombies are back in Red Dead. The setting, tone, and gameplay style are all strong callbacks to the Undead Nightmare, the fan favorite expansion from the original Red Dead Redemption. And just like back in the day, this content is completely free. No microtransactions are needed to access the missions or the new event tied to this update. Now here's where things get really interesting. Some sharp-eyed players noticed that Rockstar's own promotional material refers to this update as Strange Tales of the West Volume 1. That's a pretty strong signal that this isn't a one-and-done update. This isn't a one-off. It looks like more content is already going to be planned for Red Dead Online. That alone has sparked tons of speculation. Could we be seeing a full return of Red Dead Online updates? Or maybe even a new Undead Nightmare style expansion for Red Dead Redemption 2? While that last one sounds exciting, it's probably a long shot. It's been 6 years since Red Dead Redemption 2 launched, and Rockstar is known for being cautious about large expansions. But for Red Dead Online, there's now a real possibility that this update is the beginning of a new content cycle, or at least a short series of themed updates. But ask yourself this, why now? Why would Rockstar put time and resources back into Red Dead Online now? Especially when GTA 6 is pretty much almost done in terms of development and is likely entering a critical phase of development for that particular game. Now, one potential reason comes from recent rumors about a next-gen upgrade for Red Dead Redemption 2 and its online mode. For a while now, there's been speculation that Rockstar has been working on a patch to bring the game up to speed with modern consoles like the PlayStation 5 Pro and the Xbox Series X. These upgrades could include improved visuals, higher frame rates, and faster loading times. Several reports from different gaming outlets back in May 2025 suggested that this next-gen patch could drop in the second half of this year, and it was reported that it was going to drop a few months after the launch of the Nintendo Switch 2 to tie in a release of Red Dead Redemption onto the Nintendo Switch console. So this might not be about reviving Red Dead Online long term, but rather generating fresh interest ahead of a re-release or graphical upgrade. And from a business standpoint, that makes sense. A polished, enhanced version of Red Dead Redemption 2 bundled with new content for Red Dead Online, that could drive sales, renew player engagement, and keep the Rockstar name in the spotlight, all while they prepare for the full reveal of GTA 6 over the next few months. So what does that mean? At the very least, Red Dead Online isn't completely dead, and that alone is worth worth noting. The new content is fun, nostalgic, and gives longtime fans something fresh to explore. But more importantly, it suggests that Rockstar hasn't entirely closed the book on this world. Whether we're getting a full-on comeback for the online mode or just a short burst of new content leading up to a new next-gen re-release, one thing is clear: Red Dead Redemption 2 and its online counterpart still have life in them yet. I'll be keeping a close eye on what Rockstar does next, and if Volume 1 is anything to go by, we might not have long to wait before we see what's coming next in Volume 2. Right guys, let's move on. So there appears to be some excitement building around a new game in development by one of PlayStation's first-party studios, and that is Firesprite. While the game hasn't been officially revealed yet, there's been a slow but steady stream of information suggesting that this might be one of the first major titles designed specifically for Sony's next-generation console, the PlayStation 6. Firesprite, which is best known for its work on titles like The Persistence, and more recently contributing to the Horizon Call of the Mountain game, they've been going through some changes behind the scenes. The studio, like several others in the industry, has recently been dealt with a number of layoffs and cancellation of its live service project. But despite those setbacks, it seems they're going all in on something brand new and something pretty big. Over the past year, several job listings from Firesprite have hinted at the scope and ambition of this upcoming project. Now, what's caught the attention of fans and analysts is that the frequent mention of next-generation hardware technologies. While nothing has been explicitly stated, many believe this to be the not-so-subtle nod towards the PlayStation 6, and there's good reason for that assumption too. With the PlayStation 5 now well into its life cycle, and many top-tier studios likely to start planning for the future, it's not surprising that developers are starting to prepare for the next leap in console technology. The timing makes sense too. The project doesn't seem like it's going to be ready anytime soon, making it very likely to launch on both PlayStation 5 and also the PlayStation 6, or maybe even a PlayStation 6 console exclusive. One of the more recent job descriptions adds another interesting layer to this puzzle. Firesprite is now openly calling their new project an ambitious AAA game that will put a strong emphasis on its atmosphere, storytelling, player choice, and deep immersion, all within what they describe as groundbreaking territory for future hardware. That description suggests this won't be just another action game. Instead, it sounds like Firesprite is aiming to tell a powerful, story-driven experience, the kind of game where the environment and the narrative are tightly woven together to create something emotional, intense, and memorable. There's still a lot we don't know, but clues from leaks and rumors have pointed towards a darker tone, possibly in the horror genre. Some believe Firesprite could be working on Until Dawn 2, given the studio's past work and Sony's history with cinematic horror games. Others speculate that this could be a revival of Siren, a cult favorite survival horror series that hasn't seen a new release in many years. Whatever the case, the hints all point to a narrative-heavy game that is designed to push the limits of what the next generation of PlayStation consoles can do. For now, we'll have to wait and see what Firesprite is cooking up, but it looks like it's going to be one of the more exciting projects on Sony's radar and a potential showpiece for the PlayStation 6 when it finally arrives. I mean, just knowing that this game is going to be focused on narrative, story, it's going to have a darker tone, that really makes me happy, especially knowing it's not a live service game. This is what I wanted to hear. More like this from other PlayStation first-party studios and the kind of projects that they're working on that are going to be story-driven, single-player-centric experiences. Anyway, guys, let's move on. The Gamepass debate heats up after Microsoft layoffs, with many devs now questioning, is the model hurting developers? This conversation around Xbox Game Pass is changing and it's continuing to evolve. What was once seen as a revolutionary model for game distribution, certainly within the Xbox community, is now being called into question by some of the very people it was supposed to benefit, and that is the game developers themselves. This comes after a particularly tough week for Microsoft, which just laid off over 9,000 employees. The Xbox division took a serious hit too, with games cancelled and at least one studio reportedly shut down. These layoffs have sparked a broader discussion about what's really going on behind the scenes at Xbox, and Game Pass is starting to take center stage in that debate. One of the most outspoken voices on this topic has been Rafael Colantino, the founder of Arcane Studios and the team behind Dishonored and Prey. He didn't mince words when he took to social media asking why no one was talking about what he called the elephant in the room, which is Game Pass. According to Colantonio, the subscription-based model isn't as sustainable as it's been made out to be. He believes Game Pass has been hurting the gaming industry for years now, masked only by Microsoft's massive cash reserves. In his own words, the model is only surviving because of Microsoft's infinite money, but he warned that the reality will eventually catch up. He explained that Game Pass might seem like a win for consumers, offering access to hundreds of games for a monthly fee, but for developers, especially those making big budget titles, it can be a financial gamble. He pointed out that when studios release their games straight into Game Pass, it can dramatically reduce the traditional sales, and those losses might not always be covered by what Microsoft pays to include the game in the service. That comment sparked a wave of responses from different developers, including one from Michael Dowse, the publishing director at Larian Studios, the company behind Baldur's Gate 3. Dowse echoed Colantonio's concerns, saying that many developers have always questioned the economics of Game Pass. He mentioned something that's been a quiet fear in the industry for a while now. What happens when all that money runs out? In other words, what happens when Microsoft can no longer afford to prop up Game Pass with deep pockets? And Dowse did acknowledge that for smaller studios, especially those launching new or risky IPs, Game Pass can help reduce that risk. It's easier to get people to try out a lesser known title if it's already included in a subscription where they're already paying for. But he also said that beyond that initial exposure, Game Pass can limit long-term profits by cannibalizing direct sales. And this brings us to Sony. During the early days of this console generation, Sony's leadership, especially former CEO Jim Ryan, he was heavily criticized. He took a lot of stick for refusing to follow Microsoft's model. And fair play to Jim Ryan because he stuck to his guns. Jim Ryan said Sony had no plans to launch their first-party titles directly into a subscription service like PlayStation Plus. At the time, this move seemed out of step with the industry trend. His reasoning, well, these blockbuster games cost well over $100 million to make, and giving them away through a subscription service on day one just didn't make financial sense. Fast forward a few years, and more developers are starting to agree with Sony's cautious approach. Sony's model is based on what's called lifecycle management. That means their big titles launch at full price first, giving them a chance to sell to the core fan base, and only later are they then added to PlayStation Plus. This strategy helps protect the game's value and give studios a better shot at making back their investment. Even Colantonio, despite having previously released his own game Weird West on Game Pass back in 2022, now believes that the service should probably focus on older games, titles that have already run their course in terms of sales. He argues that this would give players value without hurting new releases or undermining game sales overall. While there's still a lot we don't know, especially when it comes to the internal Xbox financials, some recent figures have added weight to this conversation. A report from a French analyst noted that less than 5% of the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion remastered sales in Europe came from Xbox platforms. That's an incredibly small number, especially for a game tied so closely to the Xbox brand in the past. Less than 5%, I mean, that's an embarrassment. And while Game Pass wasn't directly blamed, it raises tough questions. Are Xbox players buying fewer games because their expectation is everything will eventually land in Game Pass? It's also a sign that Microsoft's share in the European console market may be shrinking faster than ever before, another factor that might be linked to the Game Pass strategy. In the end, the debate around Game Pass is far from over. For developers, it's a helpful tool that can bring their game to more people, especially if they're struggling to break through the noise. For others, especially those building expensive AAA games, it may be undercutting their ability to succeed. What is clear is that everything day one, that model isn't working as perfectly as some might have hoped. As more developers speak out and as Xbox navigates its recent setbacks, the industry may need to take a hard look at what Game Pass means for future of gaming, not just for players, but for people making the games in the first place. And we had a very interesting discussion on the PlayStation podcast yesterday evening about the Microsoft layoffs and how Game Pass was really at the root cause of everything. The vast majority of these problems stem from Game Pass. I'm not going to go into all that again here, but for those that want to take a look, check out yesterday's podcast. But this idea that you can spend hundreds of millions of dollars on games and then release them day one, day in, day into Game Pass just doesn't work. It never has. So many industry experts and game developers, studios and senior execs have come out and concurred that Game Pass model of new games going in day and day doesn't work. It's just not sustainable. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments about the content discussed in today's video, and I'll catch you on the next video.